Hello fellow YouTubers and welcome to Ed's Drafts. In this video I'm going to be doing comparison between Canon 50mm FD 1.8 and Panasonic 20mm f1.7. To make this comparison possible, I have to use the focal reducer, as you see here. So it has a glass element, and what that glass element will do is it will allow to increase maybe a field of view, if you will, of this lens, making it kind of similar to that. Not quite the same, but similar to that. The main comparison reason here is because a lot of people go for the FD lenses, they go for the focal reducers, and some of us obviously want to stick with the good old Panasonic lenses that have image stabilization and the autofocus and all these features, but there are differences and you'll see it in this video. So I just basically want to show you why this or this lens is better for you, and it's up to you to decide. I'm just going to go through the paces and show you a few things. So I'm going to split this video in a number of steps. In the first one, I'm going to show you the close-up of both lenses. Then we're going to go for the field of view. So I'm going to show you the focal reducer effect on the FD lens, and then comparison of the FD with the focal reducer and Panasonic and without. Then we're going to go through the f-stops just to see the basic comparison, apples to apples. We're going to jump right into the low light, which is probably the most important for you guys. Then we're going to go through stabilization with the help of the dolly. Now you know that Canon doesn't have stabilization. However, I do have stabilization in my camera, and we'll see if that helps. We're going to go through obviously bokeh or blurring of the field of view, if you will. And that's why I have the lights on my table, and that's why I have candles and things like that. We're going to go with the light flare because there is something that I want to show you in terms of light flare when you're using at least Roxsen Focal Reducer. It's not really bad, but it's there, and I want to show you that. And then we're going to go to focus distance because obviously both of these cameras have different focus distance, and I'm going to show you how to fight that with Polaroid filters, inexpensive Polaroid filters that I previously reviewed. So let's get started. Let's start with the Panasonic 25mm f1.7. So it's a prime lens. As such, you only have a focus ring here, which is very smooth, and you don't have anything else other than that. So everything else is set on in camera, such as the obviously shutter speed, such as the f-stops, which on FD lens actually can be set on the lens itself. So f-stops cannot be adjusted here, only the focus with the ring here. The lens itself has a nice feel to it. It's not a tiny pancake lens. So it's actually very, very nice lens, and I would consider that your kind of one-stop lens if you want to pick one from the Lumix range. In terms of the prime lenses anyway, obviously depending on your needs. So that's the Panasonic Lumix 25mm f1.7. Looks like so. Next, we're going to go with the Canon FD lens. So Canon FD lens looks like so. Very nice lens, all metal construction, and that's the focal reducer or speed booster, if you will, attached, although it's not actually speed booster because speed booster is trademark. So we're going to remove the focal reducer, and this is Canon FD lens. I'm filming with Panasonic 25 set at f4, 100th of the second, ISO 400. Metal, nice construction, big glass element inside on back and front. Really, really nice looking lens, fully manual. It has the, as you see, two dials here now. We have the focus, which does extrude the front a little bit, not too much. And then we have the f-stops, which are producing this noise. Now, there's two positive, well, there's positive and negative, I suppose. The positive is when you're clicking through it and when you set to something, it's harder to bump it to a different value. However, it obviously introduces noise. So this is not maybe cinematic lens, if you will, because cinema lenses don't have these clicks between the f-stops. At the same time, they cost about 20 times as much. And this is Roxsen Focal Reducer. So this side goes to Panasonic Lumix camera. As you see, there's no connections or anything like that, so it's fully manual. And this side has a big element here, allowing a lot of light, focusing it onto this area, and onto the camera sensor. All metal, very nice construction, looks like so. And if I to put them two together once again, very easy. So you need to focus this pin inside onto this and make sure that pin goes on the left side of that. Drop it in, wiggle around, and turn until this pops, depending on the FD lens. And that's it. And the only control here that we have is open or close. Now, the difference between that is, if I set to say f22, this is the amount of light that will be coming in through that little pinhole. However, if I twist this, it opens up to the full amount of light. So it's either wide open or whatever you want to set here, which is pretty handy. You can kind of work around because there's not that much noise there. So that's a comparison between the two lenses up close. This is the angular view of the Panasonic 25mm f1.7. I'm filming at f2.8 and 1/100th of the second with ISO of 200. I'm going to actually use the same settings for all the lenses, and we're going to see what's the difference. So this is Panasonic 25mm f1.7. Next, I'm going to grab the Canon FD lens, and I'm going to use the mount like this, so no lens element inside. You're going to see the angular view. Then I'm going to put the Roxsen in, and we're going to see the difference there. So this is Canon FD 50mm f1.8 set at f2.8 without the focal reducer, and you can see the angle of view is very narrow compared to Panasonic. And next I'm going to show you what's going to happen when I'm actually going to introduce the Roxsen Focal Reducer. And I'm back with Canon FD 50mm f1.8 at f2.8 again, but this time with the focal reducer. So you can clearly see the difference here, and there's quite a bit of a bokeh in comparison with Panasonic f1.7. I'm going to switch back to f1.7 Panasonic to show you the difference side by side. So as you see, f2.8 is not equal to f2.8 on both cameras. There's quite a bit of more light on the Canon FD f2.8, and that's basically with the help of the focal reducer, because not only it allows you to view wider angle, but it also allows more light. And the reason for that is because there's a bigger area. Basically, this element, I'm going to show you that quickly. I don't know if I'll be able to explain well, but element on this side is much larger, right? And this is a different Panasonic lens, but just for comparison, element on the other side, however, is similar to the Panasonic lens, and that's fine. However, what it does is it takes more light from this side, focuses it on the smaller area on this side, thus giving you an effect and an actual result of more light coming in, and you can clearly see that happening. Okay, so we're going to start with Panasonic 25mm f1.7, and we are starting at f1.7. Now I'll have to manually kind of play around with the settings. I'm going to try to leave the shutter at 1/100th of the second, and I'm going to try to go through the f-stops and increase the ISO accordingly to show you what happens. So this is f1.7, this is f2.8, f4, f5.6, and here I need to increase the ISO. I went from 200 ISO to 800. This is f8, this is f11, and I need to again increase my ISO. I went to ISO 3200, this is f16, and this is f22, and ideally I would need to increase ISO again to a maximum of 6400. Let's check the FD lens, the Canon FD 50mm 1.8. First we're going to start with 1/100th of the second again, f1.8, and ISO is set at minimum, which is 200. This is f2.8, this is f4, this is f5.6, and we need to increase ISO. ISO is now set at 800, f8, f11, and we need to increase ISO again. ISO is 1600, f16, need to increase ISO. ISO is 6400, f16, f22. Now we're going to wander in the low light field of these two lenses and I'm going to show you what's the difference. So I'm going to try to get as much as possible light into the camera. So to do that, I'm setting both lenses at the maximum aperture, so maximum opening, basically the largest opening of both lenses. So this one is, that you see now, it's a Panasonic 25mm f1.7, and I actually did set it to f1.7. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually switch off the main lights, leave the 2 candles on, leave the Christmas lights on, as you can see in the background, and obviously there's going to be some light bleed through the blinds because it's daytime at the moment. And this is what it looks like with no main lights, with light bleed from outside, and just basic lights that I have set up here. And actually this is what I see with the naked eye. So this would be the level of light that I actually see, which is a good thing. Next, let's switch to Canon FD with the focal reducer. And that's the difference between the two. I'm not gonna go into bokeh yet, but you can already see the nice depth of field of this lens in comparison with the Panasonic 25mm f1.7. And here I'm filming at f1.8, my apologies. So here I'm filming at f1.8 in comparison to Panasonic f1.7, but because of focal reducer, I'm actually getting more light with this, and actually the angle of view is different as you saw before. One last thing before I switch to another test, I'm going to show you what it would look like without the focal reducer. And you can clearly see it wouldn't be that fair to this lens if I wouldn't use the focal reducer. This is going to be a stabilization test. This is Canon FD 50mm set at f4.0, ISO 250, 1/100th of a second, and filming at 4K 24p. So now I'm going to go and walk slowly and kind of focus in on this ball, and then walk back. And this is as little movement as I can produce. Next, I'm going to switch on in-camera stabilization. So same shot with in-camera stabilization, Canon FD lens, which has no stabilization in the lens. As you see, much smoother video. I'm going to just put everything in focus. And switch off stabilization again. As you see, all the tiny moves of my hands producing some sort of camera shake. This is panning. And we're going to stabilize that now. Panning with stabilization. We're going to go to Panasonic lens next. So this is Panasonic at f1.7 with stabilization. I'm going to switch off the stabilization now. As you can see, shake is very obvious, probably more obvious than the FD, mainly because there's no heavy lens in front of it, so the camera is lighter, hence it shakes a bit more. Quite a bit more shake now that there's no lens on the front. Now I'm going to show some panning, so fast focus. And that's what's nice, even in manual mode I can focus on what I want by automatically just clicking on the screen. So panning. And now we're going to stabilize it. Much better, isn't it? Next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it would look like if I used a dolly on. And you're going to see kind of negatives of stabilization there as well. Especially here when you see when I'm kind of panning it side to side very quickly, or just I suppose rotating around the object very quickly side to side. Stabilization produces this kind of weird effect, so it's, as you see, not always desirable. Still handy to have nonetheless, especially with the in-camera stabilization, I can actually do that with any lens, including Canon FD lens, which was previously impossible on the camera like Panasonic G7 and many other cameras on the market for that matter. Here I'm going to test the bokeh of both lenses, so basically the blurring effect in the background. I'm going to start at f1.7 with the Panasonic 25mm lens. So I have f1.7, 100th of the second, ISO 400. This is f2.8, and I need to increase ISO to 800 to compensate. That's the f4, 100th of the second, and that's the ISO 1600 f4, 100th of a second with Panasonic 25mm f1.7 lens. Next, Canon FD. We can kind of clearly see the bokeh there, but I'm not going to say much about it because it's way too obvious. But that's 1/100th of the second, ISO 200 f1.8. I'm going to go to f2.8, and I need to bump the ISO. ISO 640 f2.8. The bokeh is still nice, but you can kind of see the octagon shape of the blades, or should I say pentagon really. Here's f4. Once again, I need to bump the ISO, keeping 1/100th of the second. ISO 1250 is enough for this lens at f4, and that's the image. And once again, you can see the pentagon, and that's the shape of the blades within the lens. Next, I'm going to show you the flare or glare or kind of light rays if you're using both of these lenses. I'm not using any of the sun hood or anything like that, so you're going to see kind of extreme effect of both of them here. So first, Canon FD lens. That's the glare if I had this light directly, but I'm going to just put it aside here. And then I'm going to twist from here into the light. And center on this one. Next, I'm going to show you the same effect with the Panasonic lens at f1.7. This was f1.8. Okay, so this is Panasonic 25 f1.7, 100th of a second. I had to boost the ISO from 320 to 400 to match FD lens. As you see, not really that much of the flare or glare. Then I'm turning to the light. Not much at all compared to Canon FD lens. I'm going to turn back. Let's see if it would be different if I set to f4.0. So that's f4.0. Change the ISO to match. Let's go with 1250. And then have a look again. Not much difference. Let's have a look at Canon FD. Canon FD 4.0, ISO reduced to 800. Oh wow. Let's check Canon FD without the speed booster. Canon FD no speed booster, f4, ISO 800, 1/100th of the second. Let's have a look. Much better. However, let's have a look at f1.8. Grand, drop the ISO to 640. Focus a little bit and try to pan again. Lots of glare there. Here we're going to look at the focusing distance of both lenses. Now, one thing I should say straight away about the Canon FD lens and the focal reducer, I'm not too sure that it does a good job in focusing in infinity, as you say. So for instance, if you're shooting landscapes or things like that, not 100% sure about that. Not going to test that because this lens is mainly used for indoors and portraits and things like that. So that's beside the point. If you want the sharpest image and if you're shooting the landscape, you should really go with the Panasonic lenses because they're very sharp, and if that's what you want, that's the lens to go for. But for close-ups and portraits and things like that, you can use both lenses and they're perfect. and mainly because this lens that I'm filming with Canon FD, you can see the bokeh is amazing. But let's have a look at the focus distance. So this is minimum focus distance of this lens. So I'm going to put this into bokeh. I'm going to, as you see, I cannot focus here. It's only here, and I already set manually to focus because it's fully manual lens. So that's the focal distance of this lens. Let's have a look at Panasonic. So this is Panasonic focus on the object at the same distance as FD, and let's see what the minimum distance we can get. So this is manually set to minimum focus distance. And that is how close I can get with Panasonic lens compared to Canon FD. Canon FD would be about here. However, there's one trick in the book I'm going to show you next. So we're back to Canon FD and we have this issue of not being able to focus here. That's not really of an issue, especially if you have time to change something. And that's where this inexpensive Polaroid kit comes in. What we have in this kit is number of lens adapters. I'm just gonna go to extreme, but there's all sorts. And this is close-up of 10. What that does, if I mount it on the lens like so, that's how close I can get the object to the lens. Obviously, the bokeh is exaggerated and maximum focusing distance is now this. So we can go from this to here. So not only I can focus kind of 10 times closer, but at the same time I'm losing 10 times of the, if you will, zoom in infinity. So that's just something to keep in mind. But it's possible, it's doable, and it's cheap. And that's it, guys. That pretty much sums it up. So in terms of my own opinion about these lenses, I'm not gonna discuss everything covered in this video. If you want, you can review it all back. You can play it in slow motion and whatnot. But my own opinion about what you can use these lenses for is if you want the sharp detail and autofocus and simple of use, I suppose, use the Panasonic lens. If you want these dreamy bokeh effects and flares and everything which would add to these, family videos and make these memories more rich, then obviously Canon lens is the way to go with the focal reducer, because without it, it's really too narrow and you wouldn't be able to use it for anything else other than portraits and some other limited cases. But yeah, very sharp, very easy to use, inexpensive. You can say fully automatic if you use it with all the functions, and dreamy, less sharp, more bokeh, better light performance, and just overall better lens, I suppose, in terms of if you want to have a full control of the lens. You can still do it the same way on that lens, but I just found that in terms of the focus ring, you need to twist it much more to go in between the focus on different objects in terms of manual focus, where this lens is done. That's it. So yeah, different cases for different lenses, and this is my comparison in terms of what they can do in real life. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them at the comment section down below. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.